Am I the a-hole for ending my marriage because I didn't want to force my kids to live with my wife's oldest daughter again? My wife and I, both in our 30s, are parents to 5 kids between us. I have 2 kids, 15M and 13F, from my late wife, and my wife has 3 children, a 16-year-old daughter with her ex-boyfriend and 2 younger kids, ages 10 and 7, with her late husband. We've been married for 4 years and were together for 2 years before that. So we've built what I thought was a pretty solid foundation. At first, blending our families wasn't without its challenges, but we made it work, or at least it felt like we were. When we met, my wife shared custody of her oldest daughter with her ex. The younger 2 lived with her full-time. My kids were grieving their mom, and hers were adjusting to a new family. We did therapy, family dinners, bonding activities, you name it. But pretty early on, red flags started to show, especially with her oldest. Family members began quietly mentioning issues: how things went missing when she was around, how she talked back, manipulated, or acted entitled. At first, I dismissed it as growing pains or a phase. Teenagers can be moody, and I didn't want to judge a child who was clearly also dealing with the trauma of a fractured family. Then money started disappearing. Small amounts at first. A $20 bill here, a few coins from the change jar there. But it added up, and every time we'd mention it, she'd either deny it or claim we must have lost it. Meanwhile, her dad would rave about how great she was with money and how she'd saved up for this or that. But in our house, she'd blow through every cent the second she had it. She never saved, never budgeted. If she had money, it vanished, and often, so did someone else's. The first time I truly felt something shift was when she began blatantly disrespecting us. She'd roll her eyes, refuse to do chores, break rules, and then laugh when confronted. Still, I tried to be patient. I knew she was in pain. But when things started going missing, valuable things, I couldn't ignore it anymore. After we'd been married a little over a year, her dad petitioned the courts to move out of state for work and requested to take her with him. My wife fought against it hard. She cried. She hired a lawyer. She begged the judge. But ultimately, the court allowed it. Their daughter wanted to go, and the judge took that into account. He ruled that her dad had to pay for all travel for visits, and the arrangement stood. And honestly, things got better. For a while. But then came the visits. Each visit brought chaos. She'd be sweet to her mom's face, but sneaky behind her back. She'd take small things: my wife's earrings, my son's charger, my daughter's makeup. We noticed patterns. Always after she left, something was missing. It wasn't enough to call the police over, but it was enough to destroy any peace we had. The final straw came during her most recent visit, when my son's Nintendo Switch mysteriously stopped working. Turns out parts were missing. Parts she'd just mentioned were broken on her Switch at her dad's house. That night, my son was devastated. He told me he didn't want her in the house anymore. He said he couldn't trust her. My daughter backed him up. They were sick of always locking their doors, hiding their things, and feeling anxious every time she visited. I talked to my wife. I told her we needed to set boundaries, that I couldn't keep putting my kids in this situation. I loved her, but I had to put my children first. She looked hurt, but agreed we needed to find a solution. Then, everything changed. One evening, during dinner, her oldest asked if she could come live with us permanently during her summer visit. My wife's face lit up. She said yes almost immediately. No discussion. No warning. Just yes. She was ecstatic. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I pulled my wife aside and told her we couldn't just say yes without considering what that would mean for my kids, for a home. She said we could nip it in the bud now and finally fix her daughter's behavior. But that wasn't how this worked. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern stretching back years. Extended family had noticed it when she was as young as 7. And it was only getting worse. I told my wife, point blank, that I would not allow my kids to live under the same roof as her daughter again. She asked me to talk to them. Maybe they'd be okay with it. But we both knew the truth. My son had said after the Switch incident that he never wanted to see her again. My daughter was afraid to even be alone with her. My wife said her younger 2 needed me, that I was their only dad now, that I couldn't walk away from them, that we could figure this out as a family. But I told her I wasn't going to sacrifice my kids' peace, safety, or mental health to fix her daughter. I told her I'd move out with my kids if she went through with letting her oldest move in, that I wasn't bluffing. She told me I had a duty to all 5 children, not just my biological 2, that I should stay and help discipline her daughter, help guide her, that I was running away when things got tough. But I saw it differently. I wasn't running. I was protecting my kids. I told her I'd be involved in the younger two's lives if she allowed it, but this marriage couldn't continue if she refused to acknowledge the harm her daughter had done. It wasn't about punishing anyone. It was about protecting the people I was responsible for. When I told my kids we were leaving, the look of relief on their faces told me everything I needed to know. My son said he'd been terrified she'd steal from them again or worse. My daughter cried and hugged me. I knew, then and there, I was making the right decision. A couple of weeks later, I filed for divorce. My wife tried, many times, to talk me out of it. She said I was abandoning the only stable home her younger kids had ever known, that I was just like their biological dads, walking away when things got hard. She said I was choosing my bio kids over hers. And in her eyes, that made me a failure as a husband and father figure. But from my perspective, there was no choice to make. I had made my boundaries clear. I had voiced my concerns. I had tried. But I wasn't willing to force my kids into an environment where they felt unsafe. I wasn't willing to gamble with their trust in me, the one parent they still had. She still reaches out, says we should try again, that the kids miss me, that her oldest is changing. But I don't believe that. And even if it were true, the damage is done. So now I'm here, wondering, am I the a-hole for ending my marriage because I refused to make my kids live with someone they were scared of and didn't trust?